What is up, podcast land? Welcome to another episode of the Two Dates and a Dash podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cubbler. Before I introduce Skelly, UFC fighter, just a scrapper, like my kind of guy, my kind of just fuck you, get in the ring, let's bang it out, see what happens. You're going to love him. But before we talk to Chaz, I want to first tell everybody where they can hear the podcast. I'm pretty much anywhere, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Pandora, Stitcher, you name it. Wherever you listen to audio podcasts, you can click and subscribe to the Two Dates in the Dash podcast. And all I ask is that you also click the automatic download button because it just helps with my metrics and helping me understand how many people are actually downloading episodes of my show. If you want to learn more about me and my book, My Brother's Love, a Memoir, which is a book I wrote about my brother Andy, who was a couple years older than me, but was autistic and stuttered and sadly died in a car accident in 1989, and is the reason why I do all the speaking I do, and why I started a podcast, and why I help people. It's because my brother was such an inspiration in my life. So if you want to learn more about me and my brother and my book, and which I wrote 14 years ago and is still selling strong today, go to mattcubbler.com, and all my social media links are on there, and you can order the book through there, and all episodes of the podcast are also on that website. So without further ado, my man, Chaz, what's up, bud?
Hey, what's up? Pleasure to be on.
Give everybody a little backstory on Chaz and I. We've never met, but we've spoken on the phone. We have a person who is our uniter, which is Mike Bartlett. Mike is my business partner, has been my business partner for 11 years in my Max Out business and now my E4 Strength business. Mike's been a good, close personal friend of mine, somebody that I admire, and he's the world's greatest strength coach. And that's how Chaz knows him, because he trains under Mike, and then also trains at Sanford MMA, which is in the same complex where Mike's facility is, and Mike's directly involved in that. So that's how this blended relationship between Chaz and I started, and I've been wanting to get him on the show. And due to his fight schedule, it's kind of hard. I don't want to interrupt him when he's in camp. And luckily, he just got, not luckily for him, but luckily for me, he had a fight get canceled actually right as the fight was supposed to happen. And so he has a little bit of a downtime. So that's why we're here today. So how you been, bub?
I've been good. After my fight, I took a little vacation with my girlfriend of 10 years, I guess. It's Stephanie. And
you just call her your wife. Let's just
I know, right? Common law. So we went out to Aspen for 6 days or so, and had some fun. We got lucky while we were there, and actually got a lot of snow, and so we got some powder. I did some snowboarding, she did some skiing, and so we had a good time. And now I'm back to the gym, back to the grind.
So many people I'm a huge fight fan. I don't care if it's boxing, bare knuckle boxing, MMA. It doesn't really matter to me. I watch wrestling. Anything that has to do with mano a mano, fuck you. Everybody wants to fucking beat the shit out of each other. That's the caged animal component is what I really admire, because it's the man in the arena mindset. And what was it that, obviously you were an unbelievable man. Your record's like 160 something and 3, I think, in high school wrestling. So you kind of had, the big dick in the school. But when it comes to wrestling, right, you knew you were good, and your record reflected your effort. But what was it that made you go, I want to make this a career?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was so I wrestled through college, and I was done with college. I feel like I didn't really reach I know that I didn't reach my potential in college because of I transferred actually a few times. I was young, I was just kind of one of those kids. I was moving around, and I wanted to be here, I wanted to be there, I wanted to be here, and made some mistakes that, I do wish I had somebody tell me, just, sit still, stay where you're at, get your degree, finish out your wrestling career. And so I had some ineligibility times, and I didn't really accomplish what I wanted to in college wrestling. I feel like I was competitive at every level. Even my freshman year of college, I beat a two-time Division I Division 2 national champ. I didn't beat a two-time Division I national champ my freshman year. And I've been competitive at every single level. I didn't fulfill what I wanted to do in college. So I got done with school, and I got a real job, and I still wanted to compete. I really did. I just wanted to compete. And I met a guy. It's kind of a funny story. I was coaching some wrestling, coaching a couple boys who were like my little brothers. I've coached them since they were 5 and 7, and now they're full grown adults with businesses, which makes me feel old. And I was in the gym coaching them, and this lady comes up to me and she said, "All right, I see you guys are always in here lifting and stuff. You're always wearing wrestling gear or wrestling shirts and shorts and whatever." She said, "Are you a wrestler?" I say, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, I train at this gym with a guy who's a professional fighter, and he's always talking about how he needs wrestling partners, and y'all are the same size. You should, let me give you my husband's number and contact him, and you should come in and train with these guys." And I was like, "Sure, sure, I'll do it." So she gave me the number of her husband, and the guy she was talking about was Johnny Bedford, who was
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I went out there, and Johnny and I became close friends really fast and started training together, and I was wrestling with him, and all of a sudden Guy Metzger had a grand opening of his gym in Dallas, and they wanted a guy from Johnny's gym up with a guy from Guy Metzger's gym. And come to find out, they were sandbagging this guy. Like, Johnny matched him up with a guy that just wasn't any good from his gym, because they kind of were trying to, match him up equally. And he found out this dude was like a Golden Glove boxer champ, and he's like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And the guy that Johnny matched him up with from his gym was not good at all, And Johnny said, "Hey, do me a favor. Will you take this fight? They're sandbagging this guy. Well, I think it'd be cool if you, would jump in there, because I don't want my guy just to go get, destroyed." I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. Sure." And so I did it. And then from that point on, I was just kind of hooked and kind of enjoyed, I wanted to continue competing, and that was my opportunity. So I took it.
That's awesome. I love when you have those random moments that
Yeah.
you're not expecting, and all of a sudden it turns into you're filling in for a guy for a fight that was a setup, and you're the great equalizer, and that was the opportunity that broke the seal off the top of the can for you. So that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it's kind of funny, because I was actually even I was just home from college at that time. I mean, I wasn't even done with college yet at that point. I don't think, or maybe I had just came home from school, and I do know I was drinking a lot at the time and eating bad food, and I was super out of shape. And he said, "You want to take this?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do it. I'm kind of fat." So somebody in the crowd even yelled something about Chuck Liddell to me, because I had that like dad bod go, and they're like, "Hey, it's Chuck Liddell." I was like, "Oh, great. Thanks."
Well, listen, everybody that's on my show gets asked the same question, and I asked this question because it's a broad question. It is indicative of the person who is answering it, and it helps the listener truly understand who you are, because anybody who Googles you can find out statistical information, or where you grew up, or where you went to college, what your records were, and have an opinion of who you are, but that may not be who you see yourself as. So the question I'm going to ask you is, who is Chaz Skelly?
Oh, well, Chaz Skelly is just a guy that enjoys long walks on the beach, candlelit dinners, and occasionally some Barry Manilow mixed in with some sweaty spandex wrestling. No, to be honest, I wrestled in high school. I loved it. No, so me as a person, I would say, I am just a small town kid. I always grew up being a small town kid from the country, and I enjoy the things that you would probably expect me to enjoy. I like hunting. I like being outside. I like being outdoors, so anything from bird hunting to deer and stuff. But I don't actually enjoy killing things, which is funny. I enjoy hunting. I enjoy being out there. And I've actually, when I bow hunt for deer, I've passed up on more deer than, most people would be like, why didn't you take that shot? I'm just like, man, when you're so close to an animal like that and you can watch it just running around and doing its thing, to me, I think that's all kind of more rewarding to be 10 feet away from an animal, just watching it do its thing in the wild, than it is to kill it, So I think as a person, I'm a competitor. but I'm a compassionate person. Like, I enjoy helping people. If I had enough money to where it didn't matter what I did, my career choice would be something, a humanitarian, something to help people. Anytime I get the opportunity, I'll do things to help people. That's just how I am. I get, I feel it's the most rewarding thing in the entire world to actually to help somebody in need. I feel like, so that's who I am. I'm just I'm the type of person who, I like to be outside. I'm a clown. I'm never serious. I joke around 99% of the time. I like to work hard. I like to play hard, and I really, really love helping people.
And I didn't know that. Number one. Number two, it makes a lot of sense now why you and Mike Bartlett are connected. Um, you know, I've been a servant for 32 years, between serving my country in the military and being a cop for 28 years. And then before that, taking care of my brother who was autistic. So like I have that mindset of um, serving others, being a value to someone else in whatever capacity that might end up being. So I truly appreciate that component of your personality. But I think it's a great time to talk about Mike Bartlett. So I'm wearing a Bartlett Methods. This is old school. It's not Bartlett Methods anymore. It's just Bartlett, the rebranding. But I'm going to tell you my Mike Bartlett story, and then I want to hear your Mike Bartlett story, because I think everybody's Bartlett story is centric in how the theme behind it, but how it happens is individual. But who Mike is and why they're together is always around the same mechanism of trust, faith, and service. And so my Mike Bartlett moment. So I'm a cop. I'm not a personal trainer. I have no background in exercise science. I have a high school diploma. I never went to college. And I decided to start a company by buying a piece of technology out of Florida, of all places, with a high school friend of mine, or a grade school friend of mine, who now no longer is a friend, and stole $300,000 from our company. But
Jeez.
He and I started this company, Max Out. And growing up, I grew up with an NFL football player who trained with Mike when Mike was the strength coach at West Virginia. And this guy went to West Virginia. And when we bought Max Out, we brought the first piece of equipment up to our hometown here in Royersford. And I called my high school friend up and I said, hey, I want you to work out on this. Let me know if this is legit or not. So he does. And he's like, holy shit, this is amazing. You got to call Bartlett. And I'm like, what's a Bartlett? And he's like, no, Mike Bartlett. I'm like, well, who's Mike Bartlett? He goes, oh, that's my guy. It's my strength coach from college. He's still my guy. I said, all right. He goes, he'd love this. So he gets me Mike's, he does like an intro text. And Mike and I go back and forth 5 or 6 times with text, but never talk. And then he went quiet. Wasn't returning text, nothing. So me and old partner, friend that no longer is part of the business, decided to do a cold call from Pennsylvania to now where Mike was at in Michigan, in Ann Arbor. We flew to Ann Arbor, showed up at both Schembechler Hall without an appointment, without any previous calling and saying, hey, we're coming up, nothing. We just showed the fuck up. And we're walking in both Schembechler Hall, and Mike Bartlett is walking out. And we're like, Mike Bartlett? He goes, yeah, who's asking? I'm like, we're the Max Out guys. He goes, hold up. I got an appointment, you motherfuckers. And I said, no, we sort of just showed up. He goes, hold on. You're telling me you fuckheads flew from Philly to fucking Ann Arbor without a fucking appointment? Fuck it, I'll make time for you. So that was how it started. We showed up, we cold called Mike, we met, we talked. He then flew down to back home because he's from this way, from our area. Mm-hmm. Saw it. His first words out of his mouth when he got on our original piece of technology was, you fuckers don't know what you have. And then he became a partner. And that kind of how the whole thing started with me and Mike. But it all started with a trust factor. Like I could sense Mike's desire to help people. It's not just about, I want to be the greatest strength coach and have all these athletes and boast about their success. It's truly for him, and this isn't an offense to the professional athlete, but the professional athlete are the people that allow him to then help the people that are like paralyzed, the that's the mechanism to doing the thing that he was put on this earth to do, which is to help people walk, which is to help people overcome a physical illness or a disease or an injury that no one else in the world can do. And that's what makes Mike Bartlett special. So let me hear, how did you get connected with Mike Bartlett?
To be honest, I think so. This was about 3 years ago. This was before Sanford, and Sanford was sharing a space with Bartlett. Let's see. I had a surgery. I had a Tommy John surgery on my elbow, and I wasn't doing well in my recovery. I was actually doing pretty terrible, and I was out for so long that I had gained some weight, and I had I've got like a few ruptured discs in my lower back, and so everything was tightening up on me, and I couldn't even stand up straight, to be honest. At the time they said the day that I walked into the gym, there were some pro football players in there, and they thought I was a crackhead because of the way I was walking. They're like, "Who's this crackhead?" But no, so Robbie Lawler hooked me up with Mike. Robbie was doing some stuff over there. Robbie was doing his rehab, I believe, with his knee.
Yep.
And Robbie and I were actually going to the same physical therapist down in Fort Lauderdale. And just so happened, like 3/4 of the way through my physical therapy, and I believe right at the beginning of Robbie's, this guy had a falling out with the physical therapy office he was working at, and just up and leaves. And our physical therapist just up and left, and he couldn't, I'm sure he had signed a non-compete. It's not like he could, take us with him.
Right.
And so I said, Robbie ended up going back over to Barwis, and then he talked to me. He said, you should come over here. So I was actually at the very end of mine. So I kind of just went over there for a few sessions, but I needed more. Like I needed help with my back more than anything, because I was really, really struggling at the time. So I came in and Mike did my assessment. What's up, bub? You're fucked up. You're fucked up. We'll get you going. But so I really liked it over there. I liked the atmosphere. I liked everything they had going on. And like I said, I enjoy helping people. So when I came in there and I saw all the people that Mike was working with there, it just kind of, it's almost like it's inspirational to come in and you're having a hard day, and your back hurts, your arm hurts, your head hurts, whatever it is. And you come in, you're like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to train today. And then you come in and you see somebody that's, paralyzed, crawling, back and forth on 40-yard turf. And you're just like, oh God, I got to get myself going. I know this person doesn't want to be doing that. That's for sure. And so it's inspirational. So for me, we kind of connected right away. Like I said, I'm a clown. And so I'm always throwing out some jokes, and we'd all crack up and have a good time. I was in the pro group. So at any given time, you could be working out with, NFL guys, NBA guys, baseball players, hockey players, and so it's always fun. We always have a good time. And I think it was just a good atmosphere. I love all the trainers there and Mike. And so that was kind of just how it got started. It kind of happened organically because of Robbie. And now my girlfriend is actually she does the finances for him there. So she works.
Mike keeps everything in the family.
Yeah.
He's
yeah. So that was kind of funny too. Cause I go, Mike was, complaining about, they had to outsource their billing to a third billing company. And he was complaining about, these motherfuckers, I'm gonna fucking fire these people. Like they're not doing their job. I said, well, Stephanie has worked in billing and coding since she was 9. I mean, her whole life. She ran a billing and coding office for a gastroenterologist practice in Fort Worth. And when we moved here, she started working with a third party billing company, and she didn't really like it because she didn't feel like they were meticulous enough almost. She was afraid that they were going to get audited and come back on her, because she felt like when she would find mistakes, they wouldn't correct them. And she was like, I can't do that. So she was in the process of looking for a different job, and he was I said, hey, you should talk to Stephanie. She's great at what she does, and he's like, oh yeah, send her in here. And he hired her, and then 6 months later, he actually gave her a promotion, and now she's doing the finances there. So it's pretty cool. It all happened so organically.
I've found Mike is like family to me. He's like my brother, and I was there before there was a bar with methods. He was a strength coach at Michigan, and
Yeah.
watching him do what he was doing there, and seeing how, granted, at one point in time I was a minority owner before the consolidation of all of his entities. I was a minority owner in the training facility in Michigan, and I've always been connected to Mike in my heart. Like there's just this soul level connection.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that faith and trust in somebody, and that knowledge that Mike's a pretty big deal. Like he's not your fly by night guy that's working out of YMCA. He's a nationally respected and internationally renowned leader in strength and conditioning, and also all the stuff he's doing on the neurological, neuromuscular side. So, and I'm just some schmuck fucking outside of Philadelphia, and it's good to be able to call Mike and get him to call, the answer. And
Yeah.
when you have something going on and being his partner, and I always say that I may not make $1 million a year, and I certainly don't have the prestige of a professional athlete, but I guarantee you Mike answers my call before most of that. and that's where, when you have that level of connection with somebody, and I think especially when you, as an athlete, you that trust component with a strength and conditioning coach at every level. I think if you're lucky enough to have one in high school and in college, it's that person that actually is the one that is the most directly responsible for your success or failure. Because they're building the foundation and the work ethic and the grit and the resiliency and the accountability component to you as who you are as a person and an athlete, so that you can learn how to do your sport better and then be more accountable for your actions in on the field or in the ring.
For sure.
Now, you're not the typical, I'm saying this and it's probably going to offend somebody, but fuck it. Like, you don't come across as the typical pro fighter type guy. Like, there seems to be a vein that most of these guys fall into.
Yeah.
And you're out here.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. I mean, even in all different aspects too. That statement's actually more true than you even realize, because my style of grappling, my style of wrestling, my style of striking, the way that I look, my build, I'm a tall, gangly guy. I'm goofy looking sucker. I'm built like SpongeBob SquarePants. I'm just big, square up top and then skinny little legs, and I'm not your stereotypical fighter. That's for sure. I never was your stereotypical wrestler. My style of wrestling has always been funky. I'm a scrambler. So, I like people to, I like to just create scrambles and funky situations and then catch people in those situations. And I'm not the type of guy that's going to come out and shoot a nice clean double leg and run it across and throw your feet over your head and make everybody ooh and ah. But I am the type of guy that if you do that to me, we're going to be in a crazy scramble. I'll probably come out on top, And then even when it comes to personality wise, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm definitely not a stereotypical, but people don't realize how many mixed martial artists are actually educated, well-spoken, educated people. A lot of these guys, wrestled through college, so they have college education. And even if they didn't wrestle through college, that a lot of these guys are smart, intelligent people that choose to fight, especially at the top level. It's people that choose to fight. They're not fighting out of necessity. Some are, but these are guys that could do a number of different things and just have made the decision that this is the career that they want to take. But yeah, you are right. I'm not the stereotypical fighter for sure. I like to be more lighthearted. Like I said, I'm never serious. I'm always joking around. I tend to be a little offensive, with my jokes. I'm kind of crude, but it's just who I am. I'm not a serious person, not a serious guy. I can't do it.
I'm gonna hold off on one question that's sort of around the branding side of that, but I want to make the connection between the difference between boxing and mixed martial arts, and not necessarily educational intellect, but just the type of people that are in a boxing vertical, like start at the bottom, work their way up to the top, versus the MMA. The MMA is more of a PhD version of fighting, because the level of multitasking excellence that is required to make it into the MMA circuit, whether even at the lower levels, is off the charts. And you always have to be growing, because there's always somebody that's going to get better at jiu-jitsu, or better at grappling, or better at striking, or better at understanding time and distance. Like any of those components takes a lot of not only intellect, but the capacity to jam a shit ton of information, and in the most chaotic environment, draw from that information and use it effectively. Whereas boxing has a very linear set of rules, and it's the most willing, oftentimes, like a Mickey Ward. Mickey Ward wasn't the greatest boxer in the history of boxing, but there wasn't anybody more willing and more eager to fight, and willing to bang, and willing to get the shit kicked out of him for 10 rounds, and then land a liver shot that just would fuck you up. And that's how he would win fights, because he was just willing to be patient, knowing that at some point in time his opponent was going to make a mistake. But I just think the mindset of the fighter in the boxing world and the fighter in an MMA world is like high school and PhD. Just because of what you need to know to be good at your sport is just drastically more vast on the MMA side. With that being said, and knowing that your style is so unique and so different, in the fact that you like people, you're basically creating chaos.
Yeah.
You're scrambling, like you're a chaotic fighter, for lack of a better term. And you probably thrive, like I thrive in chaos. I need 100 things happening at once in order for me to be good at what I do. And I can do all 100, but I need that volume, or else I get bored. And when I get bored, then I lose interest and lack focus. Do you find yourself, in that type of environment, the more chaos you have, the better you perform? And do you find yourself if it's in a slow fight that you're not able to do that your focus is somewhat less, like I am in life sometimes?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, for sure, I thrive in chaotic situations, but so I do think that you're pretty spot on with, okay, boxing is a skill set in its own, and it's an amazing skill set. And there's a reason that a lot of mixed martial arts, like me, I couldn't go over and box professionally. I'd get smashed, and a lot of mixed martial artists can't. Some can, but a lot of us can't. And there's a reason for that. Like you're saying, as a mixed martial artist, you have to be willing to learn. It takes, unless you're just some sort of physical specimen freak athlete, there's a large mental capacity that you have to be a mixed martial artist, and to be good at mixed martial arts. And the reason is because there's so many things that you have to worry about. You boxing, kickboxing, so you got your punches, you got your kicks, elbows and knees, and then you got to worry about the wrestling. So if you're a ground guy, you're offensive wrestling. If you're If you're a striker, you're defensive wrestling, and then you got jiu-jitsu, same goes. If you're a ground guy, you want to be a good offensive guy on top, which is a completely different game than playing the guard game on bottom. And if you are a striker that wants to be on your feet, you got to be somebody who can defend takedowns and then get up, and defend submissions and then get up. And then, so there's another aspect though. And it's where I feel like I actually excel, which kind of comes around to your question. I'm a thinker. So it's kind of crazy that I love the scrambles and things like that. But the reason that I like that is because my body just goes into, what would you say? Like
a muscle
cruise
memory kind of
control.
thing?
Yeah. Kind of goes into cruise control. I'm not thinking, I'm not thinking while I'm doing the scrambles. my body's just reacting. I'm moving. I feel like I am thinking, but I feel like I see things a little quicker than a lot of people. And I know my next step before I do my first step. I know where I'm going, I know my destination. And so when you get into a fight that somebody is physically more superior than you are, you go out there and somebody's beating you, striking, and then you try and take them down. Maybe you can't get them to the ground, or maybe you do get them to the ground and they're better at grappling than you are, so they get up. I feel like that's something that helps me excel, because I'm not as athletic as a lot of the guys that I fight. I am athletic. To say that I'm not athletic would be a disservice to myself. I'm not going to do that. But I'm not as athletic as a lot of the guys that I fight. But what I do have is I have a mental capacity to change in the middle of the fight, and I have the ability to see what's going on. And so if there's something, a guy's beating me to the punch and I'm having a hard time taking him down, that slow grind is something that I've learned to embrace over the years. And yeah, it's boring. And yeah, it is something that I don't necessarily enjoy, because I like the fight to just be going crazy. But it's something that I've learned, a way that I've learned to adapt, and I'm actually pretty good at it. When it slows down and I can push somebody up against the cage and start just working that clinch game and working them against the cage, I feel like that's something I'm actually very, very good at. It's probably one of the strongest points of my game. But I just don't go to it unless I have to. It's just not fun.
It's more of a defensive when you're not necessarily controlling the flow and pace of a fight the way that you had anticipated or wanted to. Then you have to have that second gear, that is the opportunistic. I'm going to do this until I see an opening or an opportunity to do something else that may be a little bit more naturally within your wheelhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When I fight, I'm a counter striker. I don't like to lead because my background's in human behavior and body language. So understanding how the mind works and understanding how people's body language is reflective of their personality and the way they're thinking. And I use that a lot when I'm fighting. So I'm analyzing movement, I'm analyzing intent. So when somebody throws out a lazy jab, like they're trying to throw a low lazy jab, I'm working through their mindset on why are they throwing that, and when do they throw that, so that I'm using them predictive movements prior to that, then as an indicator of that's about what's to happen. So then I'm using that as a way for me to counter with a specific reaction that may be more violent and intentionally damaging to that lazy action that they created. So I'm a 100% a counter striker, and I am, like I said, I'll be 50 in 2 weeks, and my body is broken. I'm an old man at 50, but I can still, and I haven't been able to box. I have a rheumatoid arthritis now, so my hands are a mess. So I can't really make a fist and strike. And if I do, it's a week and a half before I can do it again.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
But I could probably still right now go out and box 10 rounds at my way of boxing. I couldn't match somebody's energy level. But I mean, I've always been a volume, even though I'm a counter striker, I punch in bunches when I punch, and I could probably easily do 1,000 punches in 10 rounds and be okay. And I've done 10 rounds with 3 different guys rotating in, and just always a fresh body. And I love that component. People look at me and they're like, I don't know how you do that, because I don't look like, I'm 6'3", 250, and I'm not, certainly not a specimen of any shape, way, shape, or form. I dad bod all the way, but I can still do that. And that's that when you were talking about you go in cruise control. Like my body has it, like my breathing, like finds its home when I'm sparring. Like it's
Mhm.
everything sort of becomes, and I always liken it to like when you see like a golfer on the 18th green, on the 18th tee, about ready to tee off, and he needs to hit a birdie to win the Masters. And there's 400 people lining the tee box. And I'm always wondering, how the fuck does somebody get hit with a golf ball? Like, because I know if I was that guy, I'd be towing it, and the first guy lane number 4 in line's getting one in the teeth, right? That's
Yeah.
just in my head. But they nail it down the middle, and they say that everything around them gets like blur, and the noise becomes low, and they just sort of get into this Zen mode. And when I'm fighting, everything becomes real slow. And same thing with when you're in combat and you train heavily in combat environments. And if you ever train in that environment, then actually get into a shooting situation. I've been in two, and I can tell you that I can tell you every single step I took when I was in a room. One of them was going into a room, and I could tell you what pictures were on the wall,
Oh, wow.
the order
Yeah.
of them. Like everything became super very aware. And it was like, I don't know, it was weird, but and I watched like the rounds come out of my gun, and it's weird. So when you get into that groove, when you're in that I'm in my comfort zone, and your body is just acting and reacting out of repetition and training, that's why you're spending all that time in the gym preparing for 25 minutes of fighting potentially.
Yeah. It's funny that I've had people ask me the question, like, why do you enjoy fighting so much? Like, what is it that makes you enjoy fighting so much, considering the damage that it does to your body, to your head, this and that, you're always sore, you're always hurting, and having to train hard and eat right. And, you can't go out and party with your friends as much as you want, and you can't do this and you can't do that. There's a lot of restrictions in life. And I always say, to be perfectly honest, it's the only time in my entire life that I'm at peace. Like everything is so calm. Which is crazy to think that you're locked in a cage and you're about to fight somebody, fist fight somebody, and everything is actually calm around me. There could be a stadium full of people cheering, and to me it's just two people in there competing, and I don't have to worry about anything but that at that time, and my mind is going nowhere except for there in the moment. And that's, to me, that's the only time I get that, because I'm the type of person who my mind's always going 1,000 miles an hour. I'm always thinking of this or thinking of that. And, so it's really the only time in my entire life where I'm just completely calm and I don't have to worry about anything. It's like
Right.
at peace, like, and focus and not even thinking, so it's crazy.
And I think that just comes from that. And not to say that it doesn't occur for anybody else that's not in the warrior mindset, but I think of the warrior mindset is that innate want to be challenged, both
Mhm.
mentally and physically. And when you get into that environment, when you know that you've done the work, you know that you're prepared, and you finally reach that moment where they close the octagon cage door, that now it's the man in the arena, and it's time for that warrior mindset to take over. And that's where I think that peace and calm comes from, because they even depict it in movies, and it's just weird how, I mean, there's a reason why they depict it that way, because they probably interviewed hundreds of people that have been in combat situations, or combat battle situations, whether it's hand-to-hand combat or mixed martial arts or whatever. But like on the movie, the one with Russell Crowe when he was in the Gladiator.
Oh,
Um,
Gladiator. Yeah,
and
I was
they
about to say, yeah,
and
Gladiator.
he's fighting, against all these people, and it's like this calm comes over him, and it's this, you know, he sees everything coming, and his movements are 100% in line with what is the most significant threat at that moment, and all those things that are part of that warrior mindset. That's what happens when you're in, if you're a highly trained, highly skilled military law enforcement MMA, boxer, whatever it is that you're doing, even in other sports, like, ask Seth Curry when he's shooting a three to win the game, is he hearing crowd noise? Or he's not hearing anything. He just knows that there's a basket and I got to put the ball in there and I have 2 seconds to get it done. And it's about mechanics and it's about breathing and it's about competing. And so I think when you're at that highest echelon of preparedness, mentally and physically, the quiet and the calm occurs in the greatest moment of pressure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I think, it's that getting in the zone, what do they call it? I took a psychology class or sports psychology class where they talked about it. They didn't call it the zone, but it is a phenomenon for sure. When it's that competitive side comes out and everything gets quiet around you, and the hole gets, the hole grows from being this big in golf to being this big, or the basket grows from being this big to being this big. So, it's in all sports. I do think it's a mindset, a chemical release, a mindset, whatever it is that people can get themselves there. I do believe that it's it takes a certain type of person to get there completely and fully and have the ability to focus like that. But, some of the best athletes in the world, that's what, they attribute the reason that they're able to do what they're able to do during competition time is because of that ability to slow down the pace in their mind and open up their vision and be able to just come in clutch, just be a clutch individual, and which is, pretty insane.
So now back to the branding question, you went through the ranks, and I'm right. You probably, and I don't know where our starting point is. It, local amateur, like in your state where they have amateur fights on the undercard of a pro fight, like a pro-am, like where did you start? And then I want to find out whether or not your style of fighting and who you are as a person became sort of like a brand for you or not, like whether or not that was something that, if you look at, Dana's not dumb, right?
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. So he's going to have characters. He's going to have almost under, and not to say it's anything remotely close, but under the same business model of a WWE where they have, there's good guys and bad guys and loud guys and quiet guys and the more surgical and the more out of control but winning type. Everybody sort of got a place. So in branding, the UFC, they got to have places for Chaz Skelly's, right? There isn't all Robbie Lawlers or all, Dominic Cruz's or what, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody's got to have, there's got to be some variety in the mix of the types of fighters. So when you started, did you start in the pro-am world and then just sort of work your way through because you were good, or?
Yeah. I'll give you a rundown of it. So the way that I started, or the way that I came up through, there are different avenues now than there was back then. This is 2008 when I started, and I fought 2 amateur fights, and then I just started my first year as a professional. I fought 7 times, and so basically what I did was I just, the local scene. So, and in Texas we had a big local scene. There were a few local promotions that were putting on fights very consistently. So I just fought my first 11 fights on the local and regional scene. So basically you have the local scene, which would be a smaller promotion, max, they might have 1,500 people there, max, maybe 2,000. And then it's not going to be televised. I mean, nowadays it's a little different because there are so many streaming services and stuff like that. So it could be on Flow, or it could be on the UFC Fight Pass. And so back then it wasn't. So I was just doing the local scene, and then I was doing one-off fights on the regional promotions, like back then Legacy. I wouldn't call it, Bellator's not a regional promotion anymore. Bellator's a big promotion, but I fought on like Bellator 9 or something. I fought on a couple of the really early Bellators. And so, that's how I did it. I just kept winning. I kept finishing people, and I kept winning. And eventually I got to 11-0 and the UFC signed me. So I basically just fought my way up into the UFC just by beating people. And I couldn't even I was having a hard time finding fights. I was trying to fight the best people around. For me, back then, I felt like it was more a thing of having beat the best people around. If I beat the best people around, there's no way that they can deny me. There's no way that they can keep me out of the UFC. So that's what I was doing. I was just going around fighting anybody that I could, all the best people around. And nowadays there are a lot of different avenues to get in. There's the Ultimate Fighter and the Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, and then you can obviously get signed on short notice, which is a huge thing now, especially in the COVID era. And then obviously just work your way up through the rankings outside of the UFC, through the national or worldwide rankings. And so there's several different avenues now. And back then, all it was you just had to work your way up and get signed. I waited a long time though. It's kind of funny actually. The story of how I got signed is kind of funny. I was with Team Takedown. Let me see if I can find this picture real quick. I was with Team Takedown. It's a team. It was a team in Texas. It was me, Johnny Hendricks, Jared Rochalt, Jake Rochalt, Shane Roller, Chris Feist. That was the main guys. And then eventually, right before the team kind of dispersed, we added Razak, who's in the UFC now, Mark De La Rosa, Montana De La Rosa, and who else? I'm missing somebody. But anyways, I was with them and we had a barbecue. Johnny Hendricks was about to fight Robbie in Texas. And so we had our team had a barbecue, and Dana White came and he comes in and I'm sitting there eating, and he walks to the door, whatever. I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, how's it going? At this time I was 11-0. Probably like 9 or 10 finishes. I'm not sure how many. And he goes and sits down and does his thing. And then all of a sudden my parents walk in. So I look up, I see my mom and my dad, they walk in. Hey mom. She's like, hey, how you doing? She looks up and she's like, is that Dana White? And I was like, yeah. And she just makes a beeline for him, just like walks over. Dana, I have somebody that you have to meet. He goes and grabs him and he's sitting down. He's trying to eat. He's like with his friends and stuff. And she's like, come here. I have somebody that I need you to meet. And he's like, oh, okay. So she comes over. She's like, this is my son. His name's Skelly. He's 11-0 and he's been waiting, forever to get into the UFC. And he's like, oh yeah, we've met. He's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, hey, why don't you come over here? And my mom's like, he's got all submissions, he's already beaten a guy twice that's in the UFC right now. Like, what's the deal? And he's like, ma'am, I don't know. He's like, why don't you come over here and sit with me? I'm like, fine. We go over there. He gets on the phone. He's like, hey, yeah, this kid, Skelly, out of the camp here in Fort Worth, Johnny Hendricks camp down here, Team Takedown. Yeah. Well, put him on a card. He's like, oh, I don't care. Just put him on a card. And then he hangs up the phone. He turns around. He's like, welcome to the UFC. I was like, oh my God. Thanks, Mom. Yeah.
Your mom got you on the UFC.
Yeah. She went over and grabbed him and drug him over to the table.
That's a mom. That is that's epic mom. Like that should be a meme, so like,
yeah,
it's like an epic
I know
moment, right?
It's kind of funny though. The picture actually, we have a picture of us from there. It actually popped up on Facebook yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's so funny. So
What
funny,
year was
man.
that?
Oh God. I don't know, to be honest. Let's see, maybe 2012. That sounds about right. I think that's the first year I was in the UFC, 2012, maybe. But
so how does it work? Like, so you get, because I know, yeah, I managed and trained. You got the picture?
Yeah,
I put it up on the screen.
That's just the picture of us all standing there. Me,
nice.
Mom, Dana at the thing.
That's at the barbecue.
Yeah, at the barbecue. That's so funny.
So
Anyways,
I've managed and trained boxers before, and
yeah.
couple who fought for world titles, and so I understand the boxing promotion game and the filthiness of it intimately. How does it work with like we'll just say the UFC because that's what you're in now. I know they say they sign you with the UFC, and I just saw they let go the heavyweight. What's his name? Just got released.
So Dos Santos
and then the other guy
and Overeem.
Yeah, they got to let go of their contract. How does it work? Like when you get signed, is it like a fight deal, and you get so many fights in your contract, and then they renew you for another so many fights? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So basically, when they sign you, I don't know. I think your first initial contract, they kind of try and get you for as many fights as you'll sign for, maybe 5 fights. I don't know what the initial deal was. I can't even remember. But what'll happen is, you fight out those fights. Your pay will go up incrementally through each fight. You get paid a show money, you get paid win money. It's usually the same amount. And then your pay will go up, incrementally as you win. And when you're one fight away, so say I have a 3-fight deal and I'm about to go into my 3rd fight, they will call and be like, hey, let's renegotiate the contract. So before you even finish your final fight, you're already re-signing for another contract.
And is the like, I don't know how many guys does every guy that fights on a UFC card, are they signed by the UFC, or are there UFC fighters and guys that fight on the card that aren't signed?
No, yeah. Everybody who fights on a UFC card is signed by the UFC. I mean, even if it's late notice, they're going to cut you. They'll probably sign you for a 3-fight deal, and then if you don't perform, they'll just cut you. I mean, they can cut you after 1 fight if they want.
Okay, that was my next question. Are those contracts binding for the length of the fight deal, or is it is it all based on performance?
Yeah, it's performance based. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sucks as far as having any type of security.
Yeah, stability, security.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But it also it keeps that fire lit in your ass, knowing that. No, and I'm going out on a limb here on a guess. Even if you lose, you got to lose well, right? Right.
Yeah.
If you're going to lose, you better lose. Dying on that ridge, right? So
yeah, well, there aren't very many times that they'll cut you after 1 loss. It's very uncommon that somebody gets cut after they just lose once. Basically you have to lose twice in a row. I mean, you don't have to, but a lot of times you got to lose twice in a row. Some people even more if they've been with the promotion for a little bit, and they'll give them another chance or 2. But yeah, I mean, you got to perform either way, win or lose. But I think that these guys are smart. They've been in this game a long time, and they know how it is. You can't expect somebody to perform at their best every single time. There are so many factors. There are so many things that play in, personal life, weight cut, just a bad camp as in injuries. You have injuries going into the fight. You have injuries during your camp. You're out of shape. You weren't able to train your best. So there are times that people just don't perform. I fought when I fought Darren Elkins, I just didn't perform well. I lost that fight and I performed terribly. I had a lot of things going on, and no excuse. I mean, whooped my ass. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses. I lost. But did I perform the way that I can? No, absolutely not. And it's just kind of one of those things. They know that, and so they give people more than one chance. Yeah, to say, do you have to lose? Well, yeah, usually you just can't lose bad like that twice in a row. If you lose bad like that, you better come back and win.
what say to you? Well, first of all, I'm guessing you're your own agent. Like you act on your own behalf.
Yeah.
And do your own deals, which is smart. I know a lot of agents, and all the agent friends of mine out there. I'm not trying to cut work out from you, but in certain sports, it just makes sense, especially when there's not there isn't a whole lot of competition out there in the MMA world that is at the level of the UFC. So there isn't, even though Bellator might be an option, it's not a better option in most cases, unless you're getting, you're a former champ and now you're getting shots at titles in Bellator and they're paying you accordingly. But I think if you're just fighting on a promotion team, if you're part of that team and you're a fighter on that team and you're getting paid your fight pay and your show pay and your win pay and maybe a bonus if you do well, I'm sure the UFC is head and shoulders above all the other competition, and rightfully so. But do you have a say in the matchmaking, like who they pick, who they put in front of you, or you just have to accept everything?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you have the ability to say no. You have the ability to say you don't want that fight. That's your choice. However, yeah, it's it's those decisions come with time and respect. I think initially say I got signed, say I was only one fight into the UFC. I fought one fight, I won, and they came back and said, do you want to fight this guy on this date? And barring injuries or some actual legitimate reason why I couldn't fight on that date, if I said no, it could be another 6 months before they offer me another fight is the thing. I mean, do they punish you for saying no? No. I mean, they're not going to punish you for saying you don't want to fight unless you're just consistently like, I'm not going to fight that guy. I'm not going to fight that guy. I'm not going to fight that guy. I mean, then they got to just be like, all right, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
But, this is how you make your living. So, I mean, pick your poison. I mean, you want to go out there and fight, or you don't want to fight. If you don't want to fight, yeah, sure, that's fine. It's your choice. It's your body. It's your job. But, you might not get offered another fight for, 6 months. So you're not going to get paid for 6 months. Not saying that always happens. They might just turn around and offer you another one. One thing that does happen though, as you get more time in it, they give you, you get some options and stuff, and you get more leeway and leniency, and maybe you can, as you build rapport in a relationship with the matchmakers, maybe you can say, hey, I'll be ready around this time. And they'll say, all right, cool. I'll look for you a fight. I'll keep that in mind. I'll write it down. I'll look for you a fight at that time. And then if there's somebody, like I actually wanted to fight Darren. I asked for that fight with Darren Elkins, and they gave it to me. There's been a couple of fights that I've asked for and they've gave to me. And then there have been fights that other people asked to fight me and they gave it to them. So yeah, if you have somebody in mind and it makes sense and you want to fight them and they want to fight you, yeah, they'll let you kind of match make yourself a little bit as long as it makes sense. But I think it's kind of give and take a little bit. I think they do a great job. I think Sean Shelby does a really good job at matchmaking, Mick Maynard now as well. They do a really good job of matchmaking. They know what they're doing, and they try and be fair.
Because it's sometimes, in boxing, I've styles make fights. So
yeah.
And it's sometimes in UFC, because there's so many different variables as far as what makes a fighter a good fighter. There's guys that just, I can sit from my couch and say, you suck at stand up. Like I can have those, I can be that
yeah.
guy. There's guys you're just like, listen, this is going to be going to the ground as soon as possible because they're just going to get their ass kicked standing up, or they don't have good kick defense, or they suck at along the cage, or, the guys that are stand-up guys, they suck and they're going to do everything they can to knock it on the ground. And if they get on the ground, it's going to be a bad night for them. And you got to, I'm sure the matchmaking component of that to make it interesting. So it's not a guy circling around the fucking center of the cage, acting like crazy, avoiding each other like they're in seventh grade dance, right? So it's you want guys that are going to engage and get after it.
I think that is probably one of the main reasons why it's frustrating for those guys if people turn down fights. People, at this level, and I'm not just sucking up here, kissing ass or something. I firmly believe that one of the big reasons UFC is where it is, and is because of the matchmaking. I mean, they're so good at matching up people stylistically. I mean, Sean Shelby's, best in the world at matching people up stylistically. He's awesome. And Mick too, Mick Maynard as well. But and Joe Silva was really good at it, when he was in there. But they just have great matchmakers, and they got a lot of guys on the roster, and he can look down there and tell what's going to be a good stylistic matchup. And so when they say, oh man, this is going to be a great fight, and then they ask both guys, and one guy says yes and the other guy says no. So I'm sure it's kind of frustrating, because it's like, man, that would be such a good fight. It's such a good stylistic matchup, and I want the fight to happen. But at the end of the day, it is your decision. I mean, you're the one that goes in there and has to fight. So,
is there one fight in your career, whether it's in non-UFC, Bellator, or whatever, that you go, that was probably the best fight I ever fought?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I like the outcome of one of my fights better than the others. When I fought a guy named Maximo Blanco, I ran across the cage and kicked him and then choked him out. That was, an awesome fight, because it was 17 seconds, and
right.
I was taking home.
That's the fastest in UFC history, right?
Yeah, in featherweight history.
In featherweight history.
Yeah. And so I'm taking home a bonus check too. So that's nice. I think, I performed really well in a fight against a guy named Chris Gritzmacher. I think I performed really well in that fight. It was just, that was when I kind of first came to Sanford, and I was healthy, and I had a full camp for both of those fights, and I felt just amazing. And then I went out and fought Jason Knight and broke my arm and tore all the tendons in my arm in the first minute of the first round. And that was kind of a big setback for me. So I haven't fought since with that health and just being fully ready and fully healthy. And this fight that just was supposed to happen, I was going to perform very well. I felt, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but I felt great. I felt great throughout the camp. I felt healthy. My body felt healthy. And that was going to be a good night for me. I felt, it was to the point where I wasn't even nervous before that. I just wanted to get in there. I was anxious just to fight. And I haven't felt that feeling in the last couple of years because of the injuries. And, I've been more nervous the last couple of years coming up to these fights, because I wasn't in shape, or I was in shape, but not as in shape as I would like to be. I knew that my body was holding me back, but I finally had a fully healthy camp and was ready to go. It makes this last one unfortunate.
I think, and not to continue promoting Mike and even me on some level with some of the equipment components to what he does, but having someone like Mike Bartlett, there isn't, and I've been around, Division I strength coaches for the last 11 years and talked to strength coaches and some of the best in the business, according to the people that are hiring them. But I've never met anybody like Mike, he's like, I call him like a beautiful mind, the movie Beautiful. Like I think he just sees equations and shit when he's talking to you. Like I think shit just pops in air bubbles in his head that we can't see, and he's just unfucking shit constantly with healthy athletes and people that are injured. And I think, this is a question. To me, I would think having someone who truly understands your physical needs for your sport, and then also understanding your prior injury history and having been a part of the rehabilitation of that, and knowing where your body is at any given time and how hard he can load it and push it and ask your body to return back the effort is a key component to being ready for a fight like the one you just were supposed to have.
Yeah, I think Mike, yeah, for sure. I mean, Barwas does a great job. I think that they have some scientific approaches over there that other places don't have the ability to use, maybe don't have the money to get the equipment or whatever it is, or can't understand once they got the readings back, they might not understand them. So yeah, I mean, it's just super valuable to have somebody in your corner like that. And it's also equally as valuable to have a team like Sanford, because we have a lot of different things through Sanford that's hugely beneficial to our team, especially, right before we got on this call, I was on the phone with Bradley Reeves, the doctor, orthopedic surgeon that comes down and runs the clinic for Sanford. And, we have the ability to call him and, pick his brain about certain things. And he's always helping me with this or helping me with that. And all the people over at Sanford are just amazing, so we have a lot here, at Sanford MMA. I mean, there's just a crazy amount of resources that we have. And even if people aren't using Mike, which I do, and there are other guys that do, Mike would help, Mike would help the guys if they something was going on and then they needed some help, he would look at them and help them out. So yeah, I think having all these resources are, it's invaluable, especially in a sport like mixed martial arts where the guys aren't making millions. Well, some of the guys are, but a lot of the guys aren't making millions of dollars, or even, some of the guys, even guys at a higher level are struggling. To have people around you that care and are able to, able to point you in the right direction, able to help your career flourish. That's huge. That's huge, because I've been in places where I was just there to train, and no matter how beat up you are, there's a set workout and you're doing that workout. I mean, it doesn't matter, not that other people don't care about you, but they might not understand what your body's going through or what you need at that time. And our coaching staff all around really understands that. I feel like the great thing with Sanford, with our coaches, is a lot, our coaches have competed at a high level too. Greg Jones, 3-time Division I national champion wrestler. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Henry, world champion kickboxer, has trained, the best strikers in the entire world. There's a reason that people are coming from all over the world to come train with Henry. Kickboxers, from all over the world come to train with him, and wrestlers coming to train with Greg and Cammy. And I think that it's just the team as a whole, strength conditioning, striking, wrestling, and then pre-workout rituals and recovery. We have it all here, so it's huge. It's hugely beneficial.
And I think, there's the Greg Jacksons of the world, and there's the guys that get the limelight, and rightfully so. They've been in the game a long time, and they've produced some champions. And I think all the ones that are at that level, the teams, whether it's Sanford or Greg Jackson or any of the other ones that are the main producers of championship level, high quality professional athletes at the UFC level, they all have that. If not all of it, at least most of those components that we just talked about, that helps. That, I mean, there's the reason why you're great. You're not great by mistake. And it can't simply just be a financial ability, or else no one would ever make it, right? The guy at the bottom trying to get to the top would never achieve, because it would always be outside of his grasp to get there. So having a place where, like a Sanford, where you can bring in new guys and guys that are trying to become like you, or like Luke Rockhold, or like Robbie Lawler, or whoever. There's just something invaluable about that reaching down and helping somebody come up.
Yeah, for sure.
And imparting knowledge and wisdom and expertise, and having fought somebody before and they're about to fight them, and you can help them. It's almost like having the practice squad be the other team the week of the game. Like, you got to have somebody that acts like this player so that they know how to play against that person. And I just think having that environment, like you just talked about, is invaluable to not only individual success, but team success.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure.
Well, listen, brother, this has been, I could talk fighting all fucking day. Like, this is, I'm in my geek world, and I will say that outside of my Mickey Ward, who's my all-time idol boxer, this has probably been one of the most enjoyable shows I've done, simply because it's in my super interest wheelhouse. Like, I don't have, if I could die and come back as something else, it would have been a professional fighter. And my life never took that trajectory. But I truly do appreciate you making the time. I know that the last fight never happened, and that's a kick in the dick, but maybe it's a blessing in disguise, so that your body can be even, and your mind can be more prepared than if it can
Yeah,
be for the
that's
next.
how I look at it for sure.
Any idea when the next fight's going to be?
Not right now, not at this moment. I think it's going to be soon. I think it's going to be pretty quick, but I haven't signed anything, so I'm not positive yet.
Well, everybody, is there? Do you have a website for you?
No, I just I've got my Instagram just at Skelly. My Twitter got hacked and stolen like a month ago. The guys just stole my Twitter. So just my Instagram at Skelly.
And they can get you at sanfordmma.com too.
Yeah, Sanford MMA or Sanford Health has a website for Sanford MMA. So you can go to Sanford Health and keep up with the team, and then actually you guys should give the Sanford MMA Instagram a follow as well. It's super interesting. We got the guys repost a ton of stuff. So our story is always full of the guys training and eating. And so if you like knowing what fighters are doing, you should follow the Sanford MMA Instagram. It's actually really, really cool.
Awesome. Well, brother, hang tight. We'll talk off the air. I want to close out the show. First of all, thank you to Chad Skelly, one of the grittiest, most entertaining fighters in UFC, a guy that, every time he steps in the octagon, that he is going to give it 100%, and he'll never back down from anybody, which is something I admire. Everybody, thank you for listening to this episode of the 2 Dates on the Dash podcast. It's important to me because this is a pastime of mine, a hobby of mine that I truly do enjoy. It's one of my weekly outlets that allows me to share and converse with interesting people that I may not otherwise have a chance to get time with. And I love sharing it with all of you. So once again, if you're interested in more about me, go to mattcubbler.com, subscribe and hit the automatic download for the podcast. And I just want to say thank you again to Chad Skelly and to all of you. So everybody, God bless, and go out and be kind to one another.